Welcome back to Meet.Cook.Connect, my friends. So glad to have you here. And today is going to be all about what was my expectations and motivation. Why did I even want to join Manage More? And then also the reality. Like after 1.5 semesters, what can I actually say? Were they met or not? Stay tuned for the entire video to find out what it was all like and what I would have done differently. Now, let's start a little bit with the expectations and kind of the motivation, right? One of my main expectations was that I would learn much more about the startup process and just kind of see if this would be something for me, because I really, when I worked as a finance associate, I saw not only the glamorous sides of being a founder, of like going to events, but also the not so glamorous sides, the reality of having responsibility, of having people work for you, of being the kind of the founder of this all, and just the pressures, but then also the rewards of it. And I was like, okay, I really want to find out if entrepreneurship is something for me. I did not feel like I could found a startup at that point, but I was really saw these people. Okay, they were all at Manage More. At the startup I was at FanRide, there were a lot of people from the founding team who were from there, or from the first kind of employees, and I saw that they had these toolboxes and they were just very confident when they did ideation sessions, or just kind of how they went with their strategy. So that always fascinated me, because thus far I had not had so many interactions with it. And then the second kind of expectation I had was really the community and the network, because not only in the sense that like at FanRide, at least you saw that, hey, when you're part of a network or you know these people, you can found something with them, or they can be your first employees and you can just build something together. And I thought that was a very interesting proposition. But then also when I was at Academy Consult, I always loved the Meet.Cook.Connect running dinners, or MCC for short, because basically how that works is that from every initiative of program, there are people together. So you have one person from Academic Consult, one person from CDTM, and one person from Manage More, and they all cook together. And then you hop between kind of houses for the entry, for the main dish, and then you have dessert at a startup. And that was always so fun, because you could try to really talk about, okay, like, what is your reality like? Like, what are the differences? What are similarities? And I just saw, okay, these people think differently than me. They have different ambitions, different programs. And that just intrigued me. And it was always a highlight to just really get mixed together with super random people and cook. And it's like it's just a nice experience, really. So I think those were my two main expectations when I joined them. And something which you might notice is that is kind of missing is international. And I know that a lot of people apply to some of these programs mainly because, you know, you see the fancy universities and you're like, okay, I really want to go there. And I get that. But first off, like I had done in my bachelor's and also in my master's, I knew how my international experience was probably going to look like. And then also I had just witnessed from other people who had self-organized stays at all these prestigious universities. So for me it was like, okay, if I really want to do this, I think I can self-organize it. Not to say that it's not easier probably through such a program, because it definitely is, but it was not like one of my main motivations, expectations, just as a caveat. All right, so what was it actually like? What was reality? Well, for the first part of like having these skill sets of founding or finding out if entrepreneurship is really something for me, I would definitely say that these were met 100%. Even in the first weeks where you have this boot camp, and I talk about this extensively in my Manage More overview video. So if you want to see the guide and just find out everything on Manage More in general, definitely check it out. But basically in like a week, you go through the design thinking process. And I already saw how much you can get done in a week if you work on a team committed and if you really use these methods. So that was super interesting. And then through the semester, I really saw, okay, how do you go about this in terms of like a team? What do you do when there are highs, when it's like, okay, this is all going super well and we're all like harmonious, but then also the lows when somebody is unmotivated, when you have different time commitments. How do you deal with all these challenges? And then also on the topic, like what do you do when you don't feel like we're going into the right direction? How do you ideate on something which you do not have any knowledge? Like how do you acquire knowledge of something which you're not an expert in, and can you found then something in that area? And I thought that was just a very interesting value proposition, and also in terms of methodologies and skill sets and toolboxes, I learned so much. So that was definitely an expectation met. I would definitely put a checkbox there. So in terms of the second part of my expectations, which was basically community and network, okay, that one was exceeded. Like I think the first one was definitely met. The second one was more than exceeded. Because at least I can definitely speak for my generation. They are so warm and really diverse and international, and everybody's cheering for you, and you tell them about your projects and they're just behind you. And I feel like this is just something which I saw through so many parts, and the community is really so diverse. It's not only your generation, it's also the Stammtisches, which you can do in your generation, but also across generations when you do meet and mingle and you see people and you're just part of, I don't know, like it's a feeling like when you're part of Manage More, like, and you do, for example, I do these highlight sessions. So every month I kind of say like, okay, these were like the main things which happen at Manage More. And everybody just reaches out and it's just super hyped, and this is just a small example, but when we go to Startup Tour, and there's just this feeling of belonging, and I feel like that really shows throughout generations, and I'm just every time impressed by how emotionally intelligent, driven and smart these people are, and how much I can learn from them, but also their energy, just how you show up every day. And yeah, I just definitely exceeded it on so many levels. And then also something I feel like I did not expect was how much I was going to learn on the side, because I thought, okay, the main thing is going to be that entrepreneurial project, the kind of business design deep dive, but I did not think that either through my internal projects or there would be going to be other opportunities. And that's something I definitely underestimated, which was not part of it. So in terms of like what I learned on top of this, like I think the first thing which really comes to mind is start and spread moderation. So if you're looking for a moderator, hit me up. But basically it was just interesting to see, like, okay, I had pitched before, like at Bits and Pretzels, I think was like the most nerve-wracking one, let's say. But moderating is a different game really, because it's a whole evening, you have this live audience and you kind of have to really keep people entertained. But you don't always have the most interesting things to say. I mean, you're like, okay, the next speaker or something. It's not like... And so it was very interesting for me to kind of do this and find out that, hey, I actually like doing this. It's a lot of fun. And then also learning from other Manage Morelers, like Franz Schubert, he's also from Manage More, and he did like these energizers, and he was standing there and he was like, see, and everybody was just resonating. And like for me, doing this would have been super awkward. Like I could not imagine doing that actually, but he was just so confident and was like, yes, let's do this. And he walked around and asked people questions, and just like the spontaneity. And that was like, hey, I can do this as well. I want to do this as well with you. And so I learned so much only moderating this event, like it was bonkers. And this comes back to the community, like people who were reaching out to me and was like, hey, you did this really well. And I just felt warm and supported. And even if you're somebody who's like, hey, I want to do this moderating thing, but I'm not sure if I'm good at this, be sure that people are going to be there cheering for you and lifting you up, and just, yeah, it's going to be really good. And then the second part, as I said, was the internal projects. I did not really think that it was going to be that much fun, to be honest, because I thought it was going to be normal, but it really exceeded my expectations there, because I was I'm still responsible for the France Corporation, and I got to interact with people from the HEC, so that's the biggest business school and incredibly prestigious in Paris. And I went to Paris and I talked with them there, and I was at Studio F, which is this big incubator with over 1,000 startups, and it was just a vibe, and I learned so much. And it was really interesting that you can actually really shape the future of Manage More. You can bring in a new corporation, for example, for the next generations, and that was just something which I did not expect. So definitely something which exceeded that. And you can say now, okay, Mariana, this is just like basically an ad for Manage More. Like, not everything was probably met, and I can say honestly, every one of my expectations was met, but there were like at least the implicit expectation of me that I was going to be fine doing all of this. Like I had so many other projects beside Manage More going on. Like I just scheduled it bad, and it just overlapped pretty much. And I really can say that was something I completely miscalculated, because I ended up doing everything, all the projects, and I did them. But I think I did not do 200%. I did not go the extra mile. And that was very unsatisfying, I think, for me personally, because I knew like, okay, I felt like I was letting people down. And then also for other people, because they're like, okay, like she's not showing up 100%. And So for me, that was the main learning, that I should really focus more on the things I do, and juggling so many projects on the long term is going to probably take a toll on you mentally or physically or in some other way. And it was just something I would really recommend you, that if you have this opportunity to join Manage More, learn from this and really try to set aside the time it deserves, because as I said, there are so many other things. There's this coaching, there are all these events and this community, and you just really want to dive in and you want to give it the space it deserves. And that is something I miscalculated, and so if I were to do it again, I would definitely change this. So just to kind of show you that, hey, like, I did not expect that it was going to be as fun, but as time consuming, and also that there were going to be so many opportunities that I was like, damn, I wish I had more time to do more of this. So yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this little kind of me rambling on about like expectations versus reality. And there are a lot more of Manage More content, so definitely check that out if you're interested. And yeah, follow me and subscribe to the channel if you like this, and your support would mean a hell of a lot for me. So until then, all the best.